It's sad to see that it's a quality, good company that can't keep all of their Rubios open.
Customers with a hankering for Rubio's fish tacos might have to drive a little farther to get their fix. The restaurant's owners announced Friday they had shuttered more than a third of its locations, including 24 in the LA area. In a statement saying the closings were brought about by the rising cost of doing business in California. While painful, the store closures are a necessary step in our strategic long-term plan to position Rubio's for success for years to come. Disappointed customers across the state echoing the company's frustration.
I'm sure a lot of businesses are going through the same problems. You know, we're overtaxed, we're overburdened.
But some economists say while it's common to hear companies blame California's high costs, and the state did just raise the minimum wage by $4 an hour, the other factor is Rubio's was already in trouble. It had filed for bankruptcy in 2020, then tried to reorganize, exactly the kind of company that would be vulnerable to any increased costs.
So for those businesses that are not doing very well near the shutdown margin, this increase in costs, when they try to pass it on to their consumers may just stop shopping there, and it may be the thing that pushes them over the edge into a situation where they go out of business. I think that's the sort of thing that we're seeing in the case of Rubio's.
The Rubio's closures, of course, mean lots of workers lost their jobs. The company did not confirm how many. Wheaton says in the last 9 months, including since the minimum wage hike, about 10,000 fast food workers in the state overall have lost their jobs. That's about a 1.3% decline.
And what the research tells us is that once you get up to higher minimum wages and large increases, so for example, going from $16 to $20 in one jump, that's when we tend to see pretty large or larger disemployment effects. So, the research can tell us what the trade-off is, but ultimately it falls to policymakers and voters to decide where exactly they think that right level is.
There are still 86 Rubio's locations in California that will remain open.
The Rubio's bites the dust. Their delicious fish tacos are no more. In California. Just California. They're just shutting down the California. I think what's super interesting about this story is that it's not that they aren't able to make a go of it financially. Just in California, they're basically shutting these stores down. Rubio's has been on the ropes. We're going to read about it. But this is kind of one of those things that when you monkey with the market without knowing, are customers going to still come into the store after the prices have been, driven up because of mandates like a $20 minimum wage law, which you simply don't know those answers to those questions until you get into it. Well, Rubio's is getting into it and they are saying, no can do, we're out. But hey, go enjoy us in the states that we're still operating in because we're not doing it anymore in California. Beloved Mexican fast food chain shuttered 4 dozen locations in California because of the rising cost of doing business in the state. Just 2 months after Governor Gavin Newsom imposed a $20 minimum wage. What is up with these minimum dollar wages? Let the market figure that out, right? If nobody wants to work at that price, then you bump it up and you figure it out, right? But if you got enough people, coming in and just doing, all right. And the thing about this price hike to the $20 minimum wage was the fact that Panera Bread, who was buddies with Newsom, the owner was buddies with Newsom, he got an exemption because his fast food includes making bread. Yeah, homemade bread. So he gets an exemption. If that's not a little shady, I don't know what is. But this is California, right? So there's some Newsom. He's just going to do his thing. I've heard so many of you mention Seattle soy boys. Those are weak, blue-haired men who have lost their traditional masculinity. It's undeniable that such weakened masculinity in urban areas, it's had significant impacts. These feminized men are easier to control and less likely to push back, aligning with the societal shift that labels outspoken men as sexist or misogynist. Meanwhile, mainstream media demonizes traditional masculinity, calling it toxic. Research shows a dramatic decline in men's testosterone levels and physical strength over recent decades, influenced by sedentary lifestyle and poor diets. That's why I recommend Black Forest Testosterone with 𝗥𝗏𝗧𝗏 supplement. This plant-based product promotes increased testosterone and muscle mass while reducing stress. I've personally experienced improved recovery times and overall energy levels. Dubbed the feminization killer, this supplement combines 2 potent natural testosterone boosters. It's an effective way to counteract soy boy syndrome. With Black Forest Testosterone, I've seen noticeable improvements in energy, strength, and sleep quality. You too can experience these benefits with an exclusive buy 2, get 1 free offer available on their website. Black Forest Supplements is operated by patriots committed to resisting a system that aims to weaken us. By supporting this sponsor, you can help sustain this channel and reclaim robust health and confidence. Check out the special link below for this promotion. Thank you for your support. Rubio's Coastal Grill, known for its fish tacos, closed 48 underperforming stores in the Golden State as of May 31st, while keeping 86 stores in California, Arizona, and Nevada open. Privately owned chain said in a statement. Now, they closed a number, I believe, in Texas and Florida during the pandemic, or sometime 2019, I believe. The closings were brought about by the rising cost of doing business in California, spokesperson for the restaurant chain told the Post on Tuesday. Making the decision to close a store is never an easy one. Here's the corporate. While painful, the store closure is a necessary step in our strategic long-term plan to reposition Rubio's success for years to come. Okay? You're just trying not to go bankrupt again. You're trying to keep the lights on. And in California, no can do. It's a no-go. Business leaders point to the state's $20 per hour fast food minimum wage, which took effect April 1st, as a major new pressure point for companies operating in the state. The higher wage is blamed for 9,500 job loss. That's where we sit. About 10,000 jobs have been lost. Yeah, but hey, let's bump up that minimum wage and we'll just kind of see how it goes. See what happens as a result. So we get 9,500 lost jobs through the end of April, representing a 1.3% decrease September of 2023. In addition to layoffs, fast food chains are utilizing greater automation and price increases to offset higher labor costs. That's I did a podcast on this with, I think it was Pizza Hut was saying, all right, we got to ixnay all of our delivery drivers. So they laid off, I think it was a few thousand delivery drivers got laid off because Pizza Hut was like, we are not going to be able to afford to stay in business and have these employees on our books at the new labor cost of $20 an hour. Because fast food, and at the same time, a lot of you guys, when I started reading that podcast, a lot of you are like, hey, don't worry about it, because pretty soon fast food restaurants, they're just going to have robots. They're going to have machines to basically serve you, give you your food, cook your food, do all of that for you. And yeah, they don't need to sleep. So 24/7, you betcha, here we come. Because fast food is such a large, visible sector of minimum wage employment, small businesses say that they also face pressure to raise wages to compete for the same pool of minimum wage workers. So if everybody's working down at McDonald's or at Dairy Queen or at Burger King and they're getting paid $21 an hour, and you're running a similar business that's competing with those businesses for employees, now you're going to have to compete because prices have risen up, costs have risen. We need to start calling out our state's role more often as a contributing reason underperforming fast food franchises are being closed by their parent companies, said National Federation of Independent Business California Director John 𝗥𝗏𝗧𝗏 to the Center Square. They're all competing from the same pool, and there's not enough people in the pool because nobody wants to do these jobs. They're deemed to be, they're too hard. Yeah, they're just simply too hard. Don't want to do it. Not, you've got a younger generation that just simply isn't interested in doing these kind of jobs. They want to be an influencer. They want to day trade. They want to do this. They want to do that. What they don't really want to do is work. We now have a crazy quilt of minimum wage laws that make it impossible to hire with any certainty that sales will match expenses? We don't know. We're just going to have to find out, F around and find out. So have to see if certainty that sales will match expenses, paid leave proposals, making the retention of employees more and more difficult, and higher unemployment insurance taxes, all of which make throwing in the towel more appealing than trying to stay open for businesses. So California is literally strangling business and has been for years, but it's always been viewed as this glory land of if you could live there, work there, invest there, it's going to be the best thing, the greatest thing ever. Well, you're starting to see the flip side of that, which is, Gavin Newsom he's put a bunch of policy in place that doesn't necessarily make California the ideal place to live, run a business, retire, any of that stuff, right? Companies, including McDonald's and Chipotle, warned that the increased labor costs would be passed on to the consumer by hiking menu prices. Yep. Okay. So now that same employee who's making $20 an hour, his costs on his lifestyle just went up as well, because now he's getting paid more. All the other companies that bring you all the goods and services, they're going to have to pay their people more. And it just keeps a going, doesn't it? So Rubio's, which began as a modest walk-up taco stand founded by Ralph Rubio in San Diego in 1983, it's been faced considerable economic headwinds in recent years. The intense competition in the fast food casual space posed by the likes of Chipotle cut into its market share. All right, so you've got other restaurants that are being more innovative. They've got different menu. People are eating them more. You've got that. You don't have enough employees, so you're always scrambling. And now you've got this mandate of way more expenses. You can see why with all those different headwinds, throwing in that towel and saying, screw it. We're making decent money in these other states. I'm just going to go and, we're just going to keep those stores open. And these other ones that are just, trying to get by in California, let's get rid of them. The pandemic also dealt a blow to the company, forcing it to cut down from its size from more than 200 locations to 134. So they've already been whacking a bunch of these locations. And it sounds like during the pandemic, there was a pretty good time period there where things were a little herky-jerky as well. And so with the pandemic, you had restaurants just shut down left and right. Just shut them down. I mean, that was so terrible. And there's been virtually no repercussions to the leaders who told them to shut down. You've got to be closed. I could not believe when they were closing restaurants. Well, we don't want people to walk in and spread the rota on food and hand it out to others. The whole fact of, and then, firing people for not getting the jab. That was just that was a nightmare period, wasn't it? During the whole COVID thing. In the fall of 2020, the company filed for bankruptcy protection and underwent a restructuring. Rubio said at the time that the rising operating costs included an increased minimum wage. They were to blame. So you've got all of these different things that, you throw them in there all at once. Yeah, you're going to have some major issues. You're going to have a set of issues where managers are going to go, we simply can no longer operate in California. Got another article here. It's a good one. One of the fundamental principles of economics is that if the price of something goes up, people will buy less of it. Supply and demand. Californians are now learning the hard way that this principle applies to labor just as much as it does to any other good or service. Last September, Gavin Newsom hailed the passage of the law. It went from 16 to 20 for fast food workers at chains with more than 60 locations. California is home to more than 500,000 fast food workers who for decades have been fighting for higher wages and better working conditions. Today, we take one step closer to fairer wages, safety, and healthier working conditions. I don't even want to read the rest by Newsom. It just annoys me. In reality, instead of a seat at the table, thousands of workers are now, they're now unemployed. Got no job. So here's something else interesting. A lot of this stuff is the same as the first article. A Burger King franchisee who runs 140 locations said he was installing self-ordering kiosks to reduce staffing levels, while El Pollo Loco said it was automating more of its salsa making. Pretty soon, you are literally going to go into a restaurant. You're going to just touch your card to the screen. A robot is going to take your order. You're going to pay for it. It's going to get delivered to you. You're just going to be sitting there with a bunch of robots around you. You know, this is literally the wave of the future, because these pesky human beings that need a minimum wage job just to get by, to live. Yeah, restaurants and anybody who can automate will. All told, restaurants cut 9,500 jobs ahead of the wage hike. It's according to an April analysis from the Hoover Institute. That does not count those who have come in subsequent months after the new wage fully kicked in. Meanwhile, the price of fast food has gone up. Wendy's by 8%, Chipotle by 7.5%, and Taco Bell by 3%. So you've got food costs that have gone up. You've got wage costs that have gone up. Those things work together. But if you're a typical consumer, you're like, things are just getting way too expensive. So we have looked at price, although I can't charge $20 for a Happy Meal, an owner of 18 California McDonald's locations said to CNN, my customers' appetite to absorb menu board prices is not unlimited. Meaning, you're pulling up to the menu board. I want the Big Mac. Whoa, it's $18. People are having pushback. I've had huge pushback on the whole DoorDash issue over in Seattle. I have not ordered once. And I know it's a small, ridiculous thing to be talking about, but I got to that certain point where I knew it was expensive, but then when it gets to that really expensive, like what you're getting from DoorDash should be a really nice sit down meal somewhere. You know, if you're experiencing that, then, you know, kind of like what I did, which is I'm just not going to order from them anymore. I'll either go pick it up, which I think I've done once, maybe. But the vast majority of the time, I'm just not buying food that's too expensive for the experience. So California, it leads the nation with 5.3% unemployment rate. That's up 4.7% in September. So you've got high inflation rate. You've got high everything costs. You've got high taxes in California. I mean, what is the drive for people still to be moving from there? And even that kind of goes without saying that they've had an out-migration of population. So the few people that are moving in, what are they moving in for? I always wonder that, right? Because there's literally thousands and thousands of people that on the daily move to California. And I guess it comes down to that massive economic pull. The economy of California is bigger than 36 small countries, some number like that. I probably got that number completely wrong, but it's something like that, right? Where you're like, whoa, yeah, what they make and what they export and all that good stuff. It's pretty incredible. But I think a lot of folks saw what was happening here with the minimum hourly wage and went, that's getting out of line. That's getting too high, because I can no longer order the food that I want at a price that I feel is somewhat competitive. And yet these franchisees, they have to drive up prices to cover this new overnight expense. And a lot of it has to do with, politicians have never run a restaurant. They don't get it. They just think, we got to get a minimum wage for all the people here. So we need to bump that up, without really thinking about the impact it would have on the economy. Well, here's that impact, and I'll give you a hint. It's like 10,000 jobs shy of what it was before you had this little just bump in hourly rate, right? All right. So California doing more work, driving people away, driving businesses away, giving businesses one more reason not to do business in California. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next segment. Bye for now.